Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. It's Karen Lynn, and welcome to Spiritual Split Splash. This is the third episode with Deanna Godoy over zero waste and all about conserving anything and everything we use, making a lighter footprint on planet Earth. Hey, Deanna. Hi.
Hey.
Welcome. So we met when I was presenting an award to the Cafe Mosaico in Quito. And Deanna has a background in fine dining and hospitality service, but is also, her passion is zero waste. And I'm so happy to have you with me today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, and hi to everyone.
Will you tell us, Deanna, just a little bit about zero waste? I was kind of introducing it like a lighter footprint on the planet, conserving things, but you're going to be able to explain it way better. And I'd love to hear what zero waste is.
Well, zero waste is a lifestyle, and of course, it's very literal, zero waste, producing zero garbage, zero packaging, zero waste. Of course, a human being has to produce some waste in some point, but the philosophy is that you avoid sending any trash to landfill. Several things you have to do, like reducing your consumption of products and replacing one thing for the other. For example, I replaced my plastic toothbrush with a bamboo one, and you're replacing the plastic bottle that you buy every day and replacing it with a usable one, etc. Then you have composting. Composting is very important. It's like 60% of your garbage is compost, and it goes to landfill. And landfill is like, people have this thing in their mind that is out of sight, out of mind. You know, you throw it away, you don't know where it goes. Your organic garbage, you say, oh, it will decompose, but it won't decompose correctly if it goes to landfill. It actually decomposes in a way where it pollutes your water, filters into the earth, and pollutes the water. And obviously human beings right now have especially where I live, I'm from Ecuador, and landfill gives us a lot of problems. And lately it's been proven because we've had some really big issues with landfills. So the objective is not sending anything to landfill. And the last resource is recycling. Recycling is something that people have been confused about for ages. I separate my garbage, and sometimes in Ecuador, for example, everybody separates their garbage in my family, and then the garbage guy comes and puts everything back in one place, and they do that. Why it's double work? There's some people who recycle here. They go into and they start picking up stuff. And that, for example, it's not good for them. It takes health issues. Of course, they help a lot. You know, I love recycling people. And there's a project here in Ecuador called resides. Veci in Spanish is like vecino, like neighbor. Okay. And they help the neighbor, you know, the people who live around your neighborhood that pick up the garbage. You help them by dividing your garbage. There's an app where you can call them, and they come and they pick up the garbage separated. So you dignify their job. You give them a job because they sell this stuff and they make money out of it. And you also do good for the planet. You don't send it to landfill, but very few people know about it. It's getting bigger now. It's the last resource. Recycling, it's the last thing you should do. For example, if it's the last thing you should do. If I go to the supermarket, the first thing I have to do is reject stuff that has packaging, like especially plastic.
Everything is packaged though.
Everything is packaged, and in Ecuador it's a little easier to find food that is not packaged because you have the tienda, you have my neighbor who sells vegetables down the street, who's an Indian, and he picks up from his heart. Exactly. Yeah. There's so much of that. In South America, we can be zero waste easily because we still have people who supply us with all of this stuff that is fresh from the market, and it's actually the cheapest. If you go to the supermarket, you get all this packaged stuff. So if you go and buy a lettuce, for example, reject the lettuce with the bag, because it's going to last 15 minutes until it goes to your house and you're going to throw it away. And sometimes they use packaging that it's unrecyclable. Plastic is unrecyclable. There's projects, of course, that say, oh, okay, you put this plastic in a bottle and then the bottle goes to this place and they make new plastic. But the idea is not that. You waste water resources, energy resources, you pollute the water, it's more work, and they may making new plastic. Sometimes we are very, very much fooled when you go to a supermarket and they go and tell you that something is green. You have to be very careful with what we call greenwashing. Greenwashing is a technique that plastic producers and supermarkets all over the world use to fool you. They tell you this is green and it's not green, just has a tag. Or it tells you that they recycle it. The worst deceit of all is oxo biodegradable bags. Yeah, biodegradable and has some plastic, and when it biodegrades, it has little tiny microplastics that go to your water, to the fish that you eat from the sea. But oxo biodegradable specifically, it's something that they use a lot here in Ecuador and they call these companies heroes because they're so responsible. But it's the worst thing they could ever do, because when this oxo biodegradable bag degrades, it's 100% microplastics. You cannot disappear plastic. It's like, oh, this biodegrades in 50 years. It doesn't. It's still in tiny little microplastics. So zero waste people do not consume, do not buy products with plastic wrappings. We change our lifestyle. We do a lot of sacrifice, but at the end of the day, my life has become very, very healthy, and I save a lot of money, and it's also fun.
You said something earlier about the greenwashing. Is there a symbol or something that we can look for on the packaging to say, oh no, like we know it's certified?
Well, it has to say compostable. It's the only way. Okay. So you can compost that and put it in your compost box or take it to your farmer's market on the weekend and compost that. The other stuff doesn't work. It's greenwashing, or it takes too long. A biodegradable bag can still suffocate some turtle. You know, it's not, you have to avoid it. It's like veganism. You know, I am not a vegan, but I am a person that is aware of a lot of things. The vegan part of me that avoids garbage, and I consume meat once, maybe a week, it's because of the environment. Also animal cruelty, because I'm a big fan of animals, and you know that. But it's also the environmental part. People should understand that reducing their consumption of meat every day has to go to 1 or 2 day stops because of the environmental issue. It's not something about animal cruelty or way of thinking. Right now, it's a necessity. It's an emergency that we have. And in a few years, this is going to be a mess because people are eating meat every day. And meat produces, when you consume meat, when you need all this space to take care of the cows, they produce pollution. Meat consumption is one of the industries that pollutes the world, that has a very, very big impact on consumption of water and pollution. And also health. Since I started being a zero waster, I save money in rejecting things that I don't need. Before, I used to go and like buy a lot of clothing and get excited about sales and stuff like that. Now I do secondhand. And secondhand is fun because you go and you find things that you really like. You start appreciating designers and people who are very other things. It goes beyond animal cruelty, human cruelty. Who made your clothing? Where does it go, and what do they do with the stuff they don't sell? If they're ethical or not, what material does it use? So when you go and you
really being more conscious, right? Conscious in
exactly, because you do wellness, you understand that wellness has to be integrated. Yes, for example, there's a lot of very healthy people. I see these bloggers and they have all this packaged stuff that is superfoods, you know, these juices, this quinoa and all this new stuff, you know, that has existed for hundreds of years, but now it's the thing to eat. And they have all this packaging stuff in front of you. You have to be logical. You cannot just say you're healthy, you know, your body. You have to be healthy. And also, you make a conscious decision about what you're consuming. Who are you buying from? And all this packaging, you know, at the end of the smoothie, when they do the smoothie, there's this huge pile of garbage, and I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that is conscious about, that's not 100% wellness, because you're thinking about your body, but you're not thinking about the impact that you're having on the planet and other people.
Well said. A lot of, like, when we think about what's good for us, it's like, is it also good for somebody else? When I think, am I doing something for me? Am I also giving someone else a win-win situation? So it's interesting that you look at it from that perspective. If I'm consuming something and it's making a whole lot of plastic that won't benefit the environment, that's something
Exactly.
to consider.
And maybe something that you bought, like a dress, is slavery. You know,
Right.
somebody in there's this propaganda that I love, and it was this was done like 10 years ago, where there's this shoe in this store, beautiful designer shoe, and this lady takes the shoe and finds a string and she starts pulling the string and walking towards the string origin. And
Yeah.
when she gets there, she finds this house in Thailand that with this poor family, and they're making the shoe, you know, the child exploitation and slavery and all of this
Yeah.
stuff in makeup, in a lot of
Oh,
things. So it's terrible. So we have to be conscious about the impact that our purchases are doing in the world. And it feels good. One, it feels good to be aware of what you're doing in your life.
yeah.
Part of wellness is waking up to understand that you're in this world and you have to do everything you do, even buy something buy a bread in the corner of the street has an impact, a good impact for someone or a bad impact for someone. So if you're aware of this, in your mind and in your what people call the soul, it has an impact. So if you're an unconscious person who's super fit and drinks these smoothies and then throws all this
Right.
garbage around, you know, you don't
Right.
care about
There's a
people, you don't
disconnect.
care about the environment, you don't care about animals. You are being
Well, the
absolutely
person,
sleeping.
Deanna, the person might care, but they might not have taken it a step further to really think about the impact.
Yes,
It's
but
like, because we live in a fast world and sometimes it's inconvenient. It's like the inconvenient truth, right?
exactly.
It's inconvenient to have to
Yeah,
live in
and
a
that's
way where,
that's very interesting that you touch the word inconvenience because, for example, you have a store, a zero waste store, and I also before the pandemic I used to give some talks about what zero waste is to younger people, so they
yeah.
start learning this lifestyle that they don't know that it exists. It should be an option in school, right? And the hardest people to change have been my family. And
Mm.
something you have to learn is I chose this path and I'm very tolerant with the rest because I understand that everybody has to wake up in their own time.
Yes.
And you can influence and tell them, look, this is another option, or why don't you change your bags from like cloth bags and like reusable bags, and you tell them statistics and numbers and stuff. And
Mhm.
even if you say that, sometimes you forget your bag and you
Right.
have to get a plastic one because
Right.
you
Right.
need the
Right.
stuff. Or and so it's happened to me, and I'm very tolerant. I do a lot of sacrifices. Sometimes I don't know, I bought something and it comes in a plastic bag. Of course I recycle it properly, but I
Mhm.
don't torture myself like, oh my God, then I'm gonna starve because there's nothing to eat and there's plastic stuff here, especially when you
Right.
travel. So sometimes you are not prepared for something and it happens. I went to New York last year and I forgot because in Ecuador nobody gives you a straw anymore. And I
Okay.
went to
Okay.
one of these places and they gave me a straw and I was like, oh my God, I forgot to ask them.
Yeah.
But I didn't torture myself. It's an innocent mistake.
What you're saying is reminding me of just being, it's okay to be imperfect. Like you don't have to do it perfectly. Maybe just little things, like one small thing can make a big difference. So if everyone just makes some conscious effort to think about how it's impacting in some way, it may not be perfect, but it's good enough. It's
Exactly.
good
It's a
enough.
big impact when people change one thing, like just
Yeah.
change your toothbrush and start like that.
Yeah.
Start buying secondhand once in a while and look at the
Hmm.
experience. I love that because it's every piece of clothing I have has a history, is
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Of course, it's better to buy like a conscious 100% cotton clothes, but afford it. But at least buying
Right.
secondhand is a good impact.
Yeah.
Change your
Yeah.
new water bottle. The whole world has to stop. Like this is the one of the biggest the impact. Because I worked the restaurant business for 20 years. The
Yeah.
item that sells the most in every single restaurant in the world is a water bottle.
Yeah.
And I used to tell the owner, charge charge money for it. Like if they want
Oh,
plastic, just charge like wine
so
because
you mean
there,
like
this
they
is,
should
I
show up
used
with
to
one of
do that.
these? Is that what I should show up with at a restaurant? One of these water bottles?
Exactly.
But I always think about that
And
too.
or
Like, not to interrupt you, but like I go to Whole Foods and I buy cold pressed juices now and then, and they always give it in the plastic, and I'm like, can't you just use my bottle? And they're
mhm.
not receptive to that. So I think it has to happen on other levels too, because you can make the effort, but not. Sometimes I think it's easier for them just to serve you in what they have, which is, a thick
Yeah.
plastic cup.
It's tough. It's tough to
Yeah.
change people's minds. It happened to me in a plane too. I put my cup up so the staff puts the coffee on my
Yeah.
cup and she answered me, I can only serve you a cup of coffee, like a robot. So I was like, okay, fine, serve me, but don't put the lid on. At least just avoid the lid because
Oh, that's good.
that's
Yeah.
another topic. It's so
Yeah.
bad, zero waste. You have to learn a lot. You have to study a lot about plastics.
Yes.
And there's different types of plastics, PET, 1, 2, 3, 4 star. And the cups, specifically the coffee cups, the top of it, it's cancerogenious. It has a plastic that can't be recycled and it's really bad for you. So if it's melting in the hot beverage, you're
Yeah.
gonna drink this. So
Yes.
avoid the top.
Yeah. Okay,
Get the
that's good.
cup.
That's good. That's a really good recommendation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
And
recommendation.
yeah, it's or if you get a plastic bottle, recycle it because it's
Yeah.
PET. That's the most recycled plastic here in Ecuador. It's water bottles. It's very popular. Kids in school do it and stuff. But the thing is to
Okay.
stop it. This is a greenwashing
Yes.
technique. They
Yes.
said,
Yes.
"Oh, let's do all these campaigns,"
Yes.
and they do it in schools and they give money to people to get the water bottles. But the
Yeah.
companies who produce these water bottles make millions.
And they do the same thing with the organic food. I mean, there's all, like we could go on a whole topic about that. But
Oh
I,
yeah.
I think, I think, well, before we go further, I just want to draw attention to your socials and your store that you have online. You have Instagram, the Zero Waste Store Ecuador. I spent
Yes.
some time looking at that. I love. And then just places that people can find you and know more about your products. But I also want to hear how you got into this journey, just like a brief overview of it, because you're so passionate about it and you know a lot about it. There's something that's like probably drawing you to it. And I'm so curious how that came about.
Well, I was super asleep and unconscious like everybody else, and I worked the restaurant business and in hospitality for too long. And it's a lot of garbage, all the garbage that restaurants and hotels produce is ridiculous. And I was never aware of it. I was always like telling people to use like vacuum machines and stuff like that. And I used to, at the end of my career, let's say before the last restaurant that I worked at, and when I met you, I was giving advice. I was an advisor for restaurants. And when I worked at this last restaurant was my ex's restaurant, and I worked there. And it's funny that I started making products, my own products, because he was super conscious about cancer because his mom and dad died of cancer.
Oh,
So
I
he
didn't know
was
that.
he knew a lot about what to avoid, what not to use in cosmetics, and his hair is starting to fall. So I always joke like I made this because of a bald man. But I started because I like to mix stuff and I always like
Yeah.
this natural stuff. I started to mix stuff to make products for his hair. And I started with a product called the Sparta, which is a tonic for hair growth and stuff. And then I made shampoo bars and then I started doing some stuff. And because I found this girl on Facebook that I think technology is great. I love social media because I use it correctly. I know how to use it. And I get influenced by this girl who has a jar and she's showing you a jar and she's telling you that her garbage for 2 years is there. And I said, that's impossible. You can't do that. So
Right.
I started researching and following her. Her name is Lauren Singer. She has a blog. It's called Trashies for Tossers. I started
Okay.
looking at it, reading it, and also she has a store. So I started waking up and understanding the impact of my garbage. And I said, oh my God, nobody has a store here. Nobody has a place where you can go and get the
Okay.
stuff that you need.
Yes.
So I opened a little shop. I already had a shop that sells stuff for tourists. And I started selling some products that I made, and I started finding when when you align with people, when you change your vibration, let's say,
Right. Yeah.
on the wave that you are, the vibration that you are, automatically everybody who is in the same vibration starts getting attached to you. And I started meeting people that have all these businesses in Ecuador that have great products, and they're eco-friendly, and they're maybe not intended, but they are aware on that
Yeah.
path. So I said I have to put everybody together because they were like very small businesses, and let's put the store together with all of these people that made in Ecuador. So that's what I did. And because of the pandemic, it's been 2 years since I had the store. Most of the products were in bigger stores and didn't work very much. Ecuador is complicated for business, but right now with the pandemic, I closed the physical store and I
Right.
have it online, and it works really well. People are responding. It's amazing how much the sales have gone up because people
Yeah.
now that they're at home and they're maybe reading more, maybe getting involved
Sure.
in more stuff that is waking their curiosity for helping. Now buying their toothbrush, buying
Yep.
their bags, buying their water bottles. So it's
So
it's
great.
it's amazing how people have been responding. But we have a long way because the market is still very small.
Right.
The products are still very expensive because everything is made by hand. Everything is artisanal, like we call it,
Yes.
and still no massive producing.
Yeah.
So it's expensive. So it's a shame. It only like a certain people can get access to it.
I love that when the awareness raises, there's like a tangible result that you see of more people consuming and looking for those products. That's a step in the right direction. That's very positive.
Yeah, it's very positive, but I'm still a little like I tell people how to do it without buying stuff, Yeah, like you don't have
Okay,
to
good.
buy your bamboo cutlery. Bamboo
Right, right,
cutlery
right, right, right.
for traveling is awesome. I always take
Yeah.
it. I don't eat in the plane. I take my own food.
Okay.
I do some changes, but sometimes like some people can't afford it because it's
Yeah.
expensive. It's
Yeah.
$12 for one of these things
Okay.
that has the cutlery and everything. So take your cutlery from your house. It's
Right.
it's it's heavier because it's metal,
Right.
but take it, make a little bag, put a spoon there, buy a spork,
Yeah.
and use it. Avoid straws. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Straws, I don't know. I barely use one, and I have a very
Okay.
thick one for smoothies and milkshakes
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. For beverages, usually I just drink it.
Yeah.
Your coffee cup, like the basics for zero waste, if you ask me, are changing the water bottle,
Hmm.
changing your toothbrush,
Okay.
changing your toothpaste because toothpaste tube is terrible. And there's
Yes.
so many options. Also, fluoride is really bad for you. Changing your bags, like always having bags everywhere, like in the car, in your
Okay.
bag, because the bag is something that you use 15 minutes. This is the one that gives most impact.
Yeah.
And also start composting. It will reduce your garbage to 60%. And it's fun. You go to the farmer's
Mm.
market, you leave the compost there,
Okay.
you
I
can
listened to
freeze
the
it.
time. I love everything you said. Like personally, I'm thinking I could do that. I could change the toothbrush. I could do the toothpaste. But the compost thing, it feels complicated. And I know it's beautiful. My
Yeah.
sister does it. She actually bought a compost that she keeps in her garage, I think, and she recycles all
Yeah.
her scraps. But it just feels like it might be a lot of work. And I don't,
It's scary.
and
People
playing with
have a lot of
garbage.
myths. Yeah, there's a lot of myths. We actually had a live. If you wanna check out my lives on Wednesdays, they're
Okay.
in Spanish
Where are the
because
lights? On the zero waste
in
store?
the
Where?
Zero Waste Store Ecuador, they're on live Wednesday 7:30. They're in Spanish, but there's a lot of blogs that you can check out, like Trash is for Tossers or Going Zero Waste or Bia
Okay.
Johnson.
Yep.
So many bloggers now, and they talk about compost, and there's a lot of myths that it smells. I don't want to keep my
Yes.
garbage, like the scraps for a week.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
you you know what you do? You put it in a. I have a plastic Tupperware I reuse, but anything you have, like something you recycle, or a bag you can recycle one of those very good bags from the plants, for example, when the dirt comes, like it has this thing inside,
Okay.
or a coffee bag, a big one. You put your scraps there and you freeze them. You put them in the
Okay.
freezer. I have a plastic one, put everything there, put the top on it, and I freeze it. And when I need to put more, I open it because it's frozen, it doesn't smell. I put it there again,
Oh,
and
that's
you
not a
freeze
bad
it.
idea.
You can freeze your
Okay.
compost, and you can take it on Saturday, for example, to farmers market, leave your compost and get your stuff fresh and organic. And
I like
it's
it.
a good
Yeah.
habit, to be honest.
I love the idea of it. Not like it, I love it. I just, the idea of fixing it up, it doesn't
Yeah.
always appeal. But I think a frozen thing is a good way to do it because the smell.
It's a good way.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
want to
Thank
have
you
a
for sharing
compost
that.
bin, yeah, compost bins and that's another topic. We usually it's very vast, but if I make it really, really short, it
Yeah.
doesn't smell. It
Yeah.
doesn't make mosquitoes because
Okay.
if you leave some food outside, of
I
course the
know.
mosquito's gonna
Yeah.
come. But I don't know. Maybe I don't care about insects because I grew
Yeah.
in Ecuador.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the insects are everywhere, and I just love nature. So if
I
there's a
also, just to
bug
put
or
out there,
no
I don't
problem.
know if I don't know if you're aware, but even certain town and communities, like my sister had the compost out. Town told her she couldn't keep it because I think they were afraid of animals. She has like a forest in her backyard, and like there's so many wildlife there,
Oh
and I
wow.
think they're afraid of
Raccoons, yeah.
attracting, yeah, like everything. So I think there's probably some limitation, but again, it's effort, and effort is, to me, it's all about the effort and the intention. What would be three things that are super easy to be zero waste immediately?
The bag, the water bottle. If you don't want to compost, I would say
Okay.
like check stuff from your bathroom, the shampoo, the
Sure. Yeah.
toothbrush, stuff like that.
Buying things that don't have tons of plastic.
Reject.
Yeah.
Yes, rejecting is, and I started very slowly, I started really, really slow. And it was a challenge to do it in the restaurant because now I had to undo everything I did with all this plastic stuff and this machinery. And I'm like, super clean and under some health guidelines. So the restaurant went down to be low waste, but
Yeah.
100% zero waste is super difficult for restaurants. Is a challenge. But it was amazing the production of garbage. The amount, there was like 10 bags of huge bags of garbage every
I can
day went to
imagine.
2. When you separate the organic food, you'll understand how
Yeah.
much impact it is because we got these people who had like pigs and
Okay.
they pick up the organic and they feed it to the pigs.
Yeah.
They do that here a lot. So it's all organic, it's vegetables and rice
Yes.
and
Yes.
stuff
Yes.
that is, and it's not rotten. And then you have this, we
Yes.
separated the garbage and called these people that I told you, the recycling people, to pick up the stuff. So what was
Super.
thrown
Super.
out was very
Yeah.
little, very, very little.
It sounds like it takes a little more organization, but when you do it, it can really make a difference. I've noticed a lot now, like a lot of the hotels are not using those plastic bottles, like, in the amenity sets that are in the bathrooms.
Amenities, yes, that's a terrible thing. Don't
Okay.
take them, avoid them, don't use
So a
them,
lot of,
take
yeah,
your
they're
own.
making major programs like at Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, and a lot of luxury chains of rejecting the plastic. I imagine that they're going to get vats of larger product and then put them. Is it sanitary? Because I think people have that on their mind.
Yeah,
Is it still
first of all,
sanitary?
the first thing is to take your own
Okay.
stuff, but if you have to use it, of course, you recycle it properly or the hotel should recycle it properly. Hotels are one of the first industries usually to react to environmental stuff, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Not much restaurants, but the hotels do because their market changes with the time. And they attract right
Yes.
now millennials, for example, that are their main target, that are their future customer for the next 50 years. They
Yep.
are very aware of the environment, and there's a lot of competition between hotel chains. So being sustainable and being it's super important since a decade ago. So they've been changing some stuff. There's alternatives in hotels, but they can use this stuff that has dispenser that they can reuse or properly, and they ask the customer to leave it there. Of
Okay.
course, the best will be that you don't give all this plastic, but there's also right now a whole line of products that are made of vegetable fibers that can dissolve in the water. For example, I don't know if you have seen these yuca bags that this Indonesian guy invented. You put the bag in water, and in
I
minutes
haven't
it's
seen that. Yeah.
dissolved. It's amazing. You
Wow.
put it in a glass of, he's funny. He puts it in a glass of water and then he drinks it. because it's yuca. It's a
Oh,
tapioca.
wow.
I don't
That's
know. There's so
brilliant.
many names in Spanish.
Yeah.
But yuca is yuca bags are something, but it's expensive. So, but hotels can afford it. People like to see this in the hospitality industry,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
have
Yeah.
the money to invest on it. So it will. I
Right.
think the hospitality industry will be one of the first ones to change to these more sustainable practices.
Oh, that's great. I already see it happening, and there's like a huge push toward it, a big stand, a big like commitment, which is wonderful. And they're really making the initiatives. Whether or not how all guests are going to respond to that still remains to be tested because it depends on the demographic that just don't
Yeah.
want to feel to that, So we'll see what happens, but I interested for its development. It's encouraging. Before we end or wrap this up, I just want to ask, what is like a favorite book or something you'd recommend?
If I should recommend a book about zero waste,
Okay.
a book specifically, I
Yeah.
would recommend Bea Johnson or Catherine Kellogg that has a book that tells you everything step by step.
Okay.
That's very, very simple to read, and you don't
It's
have to
one book
read
by
the
two
whole
authors
book.
or two different
Yeah,
books
Catherine Kellogg has this Going Zero Waste book that I'm
going
reading
across.
right. I read it a lot.
Okay.
Because I
Always
write
kind
a
of like a
blog.
manual.
Yeah, I write a blog, so sometimes when I want to remember about some topic or get some ideas, I go to her book because she has divided everything really simply in different topics of zero waste. It's not a story that you read the whole
Yeah.
thing. Bea Johnson is a blogger, and she also has a book. You can take a look at Trashes for Tossers blog. She doesn't have a book, but it's a good blog. I will tell you what I'm reading right now.
Mhm.
I recently got a Vishen Lakiani's Extraordinary Mind
Oh yeah,
book.
you're telling me about that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big fan of
I
Mind
know you are.
Valley, and Mind Valley for me has changed a lot of,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
in my life and the business. It's business
Nice.
focused.
Nice.
And also I can recommend Edgar Hall called A New Earth.
Of
It's a
course. Yeah.
book.
Classic.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
done. Love that book. Yes.
yes.
Yes. One of my favorites.
Zero waste is a lifestyle, and yeah, environmentalist, and maybe you are very aware of the environment, but
Yeah.
it's aligned with spirituality. It's
Yes.
aligned with wellness. We are multidimensional beings. That
Yes.
I'm very connected to this, and we create impacts in the physical world, in the spiritual
Hmm.
world. What our thoughts is what makes this world. So if we're thinking about making this world better, if we are trying to make our physical efforts to make a better world, it will
Yes.
happen. So for me, it's a correlate. It has to be coherent. This is the word
Yes.
that I wanted to find.
Yes. I
It
like that
has to
word.
be
Yes.
coherent.
Coherent.
You can't be a vegan and pollute the world. You're killing animals at the end of the day because it's the impact. Everything that you do, you
Hmm.
think, how you act to people, the intentions that you have an impact on other human beings and in
Yes.
yourself. Because
Absolutely.
remember that we are all together, we are all one. For me, we're all one. So if you harm the environment, you're harming yourself. If you harm somebody else, you're harming yourself. So if we go more deeply into spirituality,
Hmm.
zero waste has everything to do because I'm always thinking about everybody else and the future of coming people.
Very good. No, thanks for sharing that. Even when we practice giving metta or giving loving kindness to everyone, we say, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free, and it's everything. It's every living thing. So it's even the planet Earth. It's nature. It's everything. So we have to think like that. Unfortunately, we haven't done that very much as a society and culture, but things are changing, and I'm very optimistic for the awareness that is being raised from people like yourself who are taking strong initiative into messaging and letting people know that this lifestyle is possible and you can make changes.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important that people watch channels like yours because
Oh,
you're
thanks.
not, yeah, it's
Thank
very
you for
important. Like,
watching.
yeah, it is. It is absolutely important because people who have a career, let's say I'm still in the restaurant business,
Right.
I still need to watch this waking up. I still need to wake up in a lot of spiritual aspects because
Right.
spiritual growth is basic for human
Yes,
beings in any work you're doing. Let's
it
say I'm
is.
in the restaurant business, and let's not say I'm an environmentalist. It doesn't matter. I'm still need to grow as a human being. project that in my work so I can grow spiritually, mentally, and in my business. In even more if you are connected to other people, because you can influence on them so much. So channels like this from spirituality and well-being are so important, because we right now as humans in this moment, in this right now, what's happening in the world, everything that's going on needs this needs this. We need to be this should be implemented in schools. Kids should have a wellness class, like a spirituality class, not a religious. I'm not talking about religion. This is a very important that we all watch this, like from different people, different points of view, different aspects, and we learn. This is a never-ending learning experience. We come to this planet to learn, and we need the people like you to help us, like guide us into the right path, and like give us all these options, because there's so many things that are connected to spirituality, not only meditation, not only God, connecting to the source. It's very important that you like give all this little information, this little info. Something is going to click on somebody's head. Somebody is going to connect to something and wake up. So I really wanted to do that comment, because I watch your channel a lot. And I'm very happy, and I'm very honored that I'm here. So I highly recommend people keep watching, because it's important for you, for your life, for your spiritual health.
Thank you. That's sweet. But when you were saying the thing about spirituality, I appreciate going into that definition, because I like to look at it too as like planting seeds. When I first embarked on my journey, a lot of seeds have been planted in different places, and I didn't realize that until I started to kind of move forward, and it drew me in, and I started to feel like, oh wow, like that was something that was planted a long time ago, because I exposed to something that just kind of opened my mind to it. And you never know when that crack is going to open, and there'll be growth. So it's just always about being open-minded and exposure. So I do appreciate that, and you as well. You know that I love what you're doing. Thanks for sharing today everything you've done, and I really appreciate you taking the time today. So thank you, and thank you to everyone who was joining us. If you're joining us later, I really appreciate it, and the support's wonderful. Thank you.
Maybe if you don't know what zero waste is, you get curious and find out. And if I made some change and I influence one person, then I'm very happy. And the store, I only sell right now in Ecuador, all over the country, but not outside. But it doesn't matter. People can contact me from all over the world and ask me questions. If you need something, part of my task is to teach, to influence people on going in a better lifestyle and being more conscious about the environment. So if you have questions about how can I change this, how can I do this, or how can I start this lifestyle, I'm very happy to share.
You're super humble, because you've been on the news, like every time you're on like every news channel in Ecuador. You're like really a leader in this space. So you're the person, you're the go-to person. You're my go-to person on this, and really appreciate it. So
yes,
thank you.
Thank you too, Karen. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody for joining. And if you share this video so we can get bye everyone. Bye. Thanks.